Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Post-lunch or pre-lunch, either of the timings at times are not very happy timings. Either you feel sleepy or you feel hungry. Hope we'll be able to, our discussion will keep you engaged. Programmatic marketing, something that's, I think, very close to all of us. And that is something that's actually we're seeing the industry move more towards programmatic advertising, and a lot of technology advancements that have happened over there. But what we would like to request from the panel and try to understand how they foresee this from an advertiser's point of view, right? So, what we've really noticed that while as an advertiser, most of the advertisers have focused more on Google and Meta, whereas all the other programmatic platforms have not been their priority. So I would like to start with you, Shonali, that as an advertiser, what are the problems that you face? What are the issues that you see with programmatic advertising per se?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So I'll keep it simple by giving an explanation to an example that we recently faced. So I belong to Godrej Capital. We're into loans. One of the latest products that we launched was into doctor loans, professional loans, largely. Now, this is a very niche segment. It's a digitally averse segment. They don't leave a lot of digital first-party footprint. We decided to use programmatic and work with a private marketplace who claimed to have access to this cohort and promised a lot of deliveries, right? However, when we got into the execution, we realized the cohort was not the doctor's cohort. So it's claim versus delivery, right? There's a lot of lack of transparency, and hence the trust that takes, because at the end of the day, it's monies that we are putting in. So that's what I think, basically, it's a trial for us when it comes to other publishers or other marketplaces, while for Google and Meta, it's slightly more proven for us.
Sapna, what other things you would like to see? What other issues apart from that you feel you face with programmatic?
Audible? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for that question. See, in terms of what our experience has been, that I don't think programmatic vis-a-vis Google Meta, it's A versus B. I think it really starts from what is your objective and what are you trying to achieve. Now, many times, if it's a brand objective, you want to go for platforms that give you that reach, yeah, and measurable reach is, I think, one area. And if it is performance, which a lot of work that we are doing in towards the e-commerce, again, it's the measurement and like how she talked about audience targeting and measurement. And specifically, when you have to prove the ROI, the platforms like Google and Meta are just more easier to work with. There are various new tools in programmatic that are coming up, and I'm getting aware of a few of these. But the challenge is the multiplicity of options. And you have to put you have a specific amount of money, and you want to kind of spread it into mediums that get you the maximum ROI. And that's where I think somewhere the challenge that we need to build further and experience more with programmatic comes in.
Yeah, measurability, reach, ease of doing things. Priyanka, would you like to add some issues that you face otherwise from other platforms?
Check. Hi, guys. I represent Bajaj Auto, where we are looking at a spectrum of motorcycles, right from affordable segment to a cohort where people are using motorcycles for lifestyle. My co-panelists have actually put in some really good thoughts ahead that, utilization of a platform does not start with wanting to do a platform, but it actually germinates from the fact that what is your end objective. I will not repeat those points, but I'll add on the other two major problems that I face is one is problem of too much. I don't know then where to go. So Google and Meta, at least I have a way of defining and I know what is the reach, at what level I should stop. But in programmatic, I have no idea where to start and where to stop. There are just too many platforms available in the market, and every day there is one new vendor who comes up to us and says that, okay, even I am programmatic. So that is one. And the second very big problem is of trust. We really don't know what they are delivering is true or not. So we've tried a couple of programmatic platforms in the past as well. We've received leads and post double clicking into it and looking at the leads, I've done some calls myself. We realized that these are either bots or these are either people who have extra mobile numbers and they're just paid to have the leads. So the trust factor becomes a very big problem. And there is monies that are put behind it. So big challenge.
Great, great. Thank you, Priyanka. So Abhishek, amongst all of us, is a very unique blend of a marketeer, founder, and finance expert. He's a CFA. So Abhishek, from the finance aspect also, apart from the marketing aspects, what are your challenges that you face with the programmatic advertising?
Right. Thank you, Amitabh. So basically at Fatak Pay, what we do is we run a financial wellness platform for low and middle income groups. So basically providing credit is one of the foremost things, but we also look at savings, investment, insurance, etc., kind of needs for low income and middle income segment. And we also heavily use programmatic. Obviously, Google, Meta are the go-to platforms. But again, there are multiple pros and cons of using Google, Meta, or any other platform. And one you rightly mentioned is cost, ROI. So obviously, most of the advertisers use Google and Meta, and hence, the cost of per lead, when you bid for those leads, obviously your acquisition cost is kind of higher. Again, it comes with a more, widespread audience. Obviously, the reach is there. But obviously, the advantage of using other programmatic channels could be that your cost per lead goes down. And since there are lesser players competing for the same lead, your cost could go down. But obviously, you have to also look at, click frauds, bot leads, etc. So, and one of the also important thing to think about in programmatic is your brand safety. So where your ads are showing, is it showing with some objectionable or something that you don't want to position yourself with. So all those things you have to keep in mind. The visibility of your brand, obviously ROI is an important function, and also make sure that you're not subject to those kind of frauds where you're getting impressions or leads, but those are not real people applying.
Great. So we have, I think, multiple issues, and I'm sure we have not covered all of them, but quite a few of them, But coming back to you, Priyanka, we actually have now experiencing third generation programmatic platforms, and they're technically much more advanced than their predecessors. How far do you think they have actually been able to address these issues? And are they, when you touched upon trust, you touched upon viewability, how far do you think they've been able to address these issues? And what are the other technology that has come into phase where you feel that they have been able to help the programmatic advertising become more trustworthy?
Good question. So for the last 1 year, we have been experimenting with multiple programmatic platforms that are available in the market, and with trial and error, having cost of basically experimenting, we've been able to actually zero down on DV360, where we now pretty much consolidate a lot of our advertising activity. While these platforms claim to have advancements, so yes, they have so your issue of brand safety. These pieces are being taken care inherently by the platform, because they do realize that there are third parties which are cropping up, which will anyways, if they do not give give us measurability, there will be third-party audit platforms that are coming in. However, we believe that a third-party audit has to be there. So most of the time, while we will continue using our existing programmatic platform, we will bring in a third-party player, and we are in midst of conversations with multiple of them to identify the best one. So the problems of brand safety, bots, viewability, these are going to be addressed and taken care of when we have these implemented.
Good, great. Sapna, you had touched on the base of too many platforms, right? I would like to also draw a point whereby somehow I would like to take a discussion from the other angle, that there is also a limitation that we see, and I've noticed multiple advertisers saying that beyond a particular reach or beyond a particular budget, अगर ज़्यादा spend करो फट जाती है, पूरे campaign की हालत ख़राब हो जाती है, and people also are able to speak of, okay, I am not able to increase my scale from these two platforms at the price point that I want. So two questions to you. Number one is how other platforms can help you go beyond the reach of Meta and Google, number one. Number two, how else does this platforms do, apart from the reach, how are they able to help you in addressing your CACs?
Audible? Yeah. Thanks for the question. Just before I start, I think last time I missed introducing the role that I'm in. So I lead marketing and e-commerce at ManipalCigna Health Insurance. So largely the insurance, fintech, finance domain is where I have experience in. So I think I want to answer this or share a perspective. Actually, maybe 3 points. One is that when you're looking at platforms, when you're looking at the marketing objective, business objective, and as rightly asked, you have a COA. So we run a channel, you have to maintain the COA, you have to maintain the profitability. So very important to keep that in mind. That's why all these platforms have a role to play. I mean, that's the first step. And within that, how do you achieve scale? I think it's every marketer's biggest dilemma. कि इतना तो search तो इतना ही है, फिर search के ऊपर जाओगे, search के conversions challenging है, cost high है. So you want different sources to play up, and you're really looking for these spaces to play up so that you get that nice cohort where you're able to kind of target and build a profitable business segment from. So I think programmatic has a lot of potential in that space to be that, supplementary platform where you can, once you get it right, I think that getting it right is a trick that many marketers need to, spend time and establish themselves in. But once you have it, I think it's a good, platform for you to start investing and building your experience in, because every segment will have a different experience. And I think that's like the first point. So how can you really use that to balance off your COA? And the second one, which I feel, when we have experimented a bit on, is actually a lot of cross-platform storytelling. A lot of new formats are now available with programmatic and, like say DV360 or so. And so, right from CTV to video ads to banners, we just learned about icons. So I think this is the other opportunity of how do you really use the various formats available to the marketer and try to build in some kind of a cross-platform storytelling in your campaigns. So I think that would be the second opportunity, and I'm sure my co-panelists will have more experience to share on that front too.
Okay. Abhishek, you'd like to add something?
Yeah, so see, cost, ROI, matrices, and whatever you use for measurement is not new to marketing or to the digital world, right? I think that's not the question. The question is on how this third front on the programmatic side actually comes across on the board for conversation. Like in our case, it's a layered conversation. So we have an agency in between, and then the conversation passes on. So a couple of challenges that we usually face is loss in translation and the loop back. So the loss in time and loss in conversation is something that we typically face, and that leads to some amount of chaos in saying, okay, let's pause, let's scale, let's stop, let's redo, let's revisit, kind of a thing. So that's practically that we end up facing.
Very, very interesting point actually raised by you, Shonali, because there's one more point that I was been thinking is, and Abhishek, since you, a lot of things I believe you do it in-house, and I would like to pose this question to others as well. What we've noticed is because of the time and the layers that Shonali touched base upon, and the habit of using, you know, Meta and Google as a platform from early stages, I've noticed that people earlier are ready to invest time. They used to invest time in creating their funnel, understanding the platform, and improving upon it. Whereas people and many, the third layer or the second layer or the even the team within the organizations, they don't have that sort of a patience of understanding, exploring, and exploiting the new age platforms. Do you think this is a challenge that has to be understood and addressed?
No, absolutely. So, us as an organization, we almost process, 50,000 leads per day. So we have to be very, smart in terms of our funnel management. We have to be very smart in terms of our cost per lead that we are facing, and this needs to be actively tracked, monitored. There is a dedicated team working, every day doing that. So, having an active view on, what is the current CACs, having an active view of what the, in-funnel movement of these leads are looking at. Is there a issue with the kind of leads, or, is there some place in the funnel where there is, bottlenecks? So there has to be a very real-time, monitoring of this situation. Also, I would also recommend a lot of, my fellow startup folks that, obviously this is an important factor, and there are multiple agencies like Valueleaf, etc., who can also help in terms of addressing those challenges if you don't have enough bandwidth, and we rely on certain agencies for this as well. So yes, in funnel tracking, monitoring, real-time cost optimization, etc., is critical, and we need to keep a very sharp view on this since we are processing so many leads per day.
Priyanka, you'd like to say something on that?
Yeah. I have 2 points to add here. One leading from the conversation, the earlier conversation on programmatic piece, is that Google Meta, there is only so much inventory. While we've been around and we look at Google and Meta, we feel that, oh my God, all inventory is actually available. But the fact of the matter is that the plethora of inventory that is available out there in online is not actually addressed by these two. So that was point number one. And hence, getting into programmatic, and it's a very different question of what and who in the programmatic universe you want to work with, but getting out there becomes a no-brainer. And it also depends on the life stage of the brand that you are in. That was point number one. And the point number two, as a answer to what you are trying to say, is that even we work with agencies. I have a very, very lean team, and I basically have ninjas who work with 2 massive agencies on 5 brands. So the way we do it is that we've set out KPIs for the agency saying that, X percentage of spends has to come out of programmatic, and these are the average CPLs that you have to maintain. And hence now the burden of identifying the right partners and playing within the CPLs that we have now passes on from our shoulder to their shoulder. It's a shared responsibility between us. And that's one way of addressing this challenge, because see, going out into programmatic world is inevitable. You cannot just keep making Meta and Google rich and richer by the day.
Yeah, it is a necessary evil. But wonderful. We've touched on two important points. I think it's come out of all of you: uh, ad formats and inventories. So, and we've seen emergence of ad formats and inventories in the recent past. In the programmatic space. Uh, Earlier, right from a simple display advertising today, then to rich media, now we have plethora of inventories, right from icons to even vanilla inventories getting redefined. And of course, ad formats getting redefined. And then, of course, multiple inventories. We have CTV, we have digital out of home, we have multiple other things. So how this has helped you uh, in redefining your reach, your impact, and most importantly, getting you intent audience. Shonali would like to start with you on this.
Well, we've not dabbled at Godrej Capital a lot on this side, predominantly because we're still setting up. We're just 2 years old per se. We're still setting up a geo footprint and a digital footprint. But as a generic comment, anything which adds a layer of measurability, adds a layer of automation, adds an added layer that you can get data cues back is welcome. So I think from digital OH to anything per se, which eases our answer back, saying, okay, you know what, we have a scientific way to measure this and a scientific way to derive this is always welcome.
I don't know whether that's good for you. You are looking into things, but there was once the CMO of Coca-Cola was asked, there are so many inventories and so many options available. How do you find it? He said, "Oh, I sleep like a baby. I get up every 2 minutes crying." So, uh, having a huge space at times also becomes difficult and counterproductive unless until managed extremely well. So Sapna,
That's what Priyanka touched
yeah,
upon,
exactly.
right? It's also a space where too much is also sometimes a problem.
Exactly. So, but when we actually, as marketeers, and not just digital marketeers, when we are looking at out of home, when we are looking at television, and when we are looking at digital, uh, are we able to, through programmatically, understand how our reach has multiplied, how our impact has multiplied, and uh, in terms of measurability, I think at some point of time, Sapna, because you've raised the question of measurability, at least we are able to do some sort of a measurable. In terms of out of home, especially, or in terms of television, the idea was more, I would say, statistically oriented rather than measurable kind of a thing. So do you think, are we able to redefine or the reach, our impact, and are we able to use the new inventories in a form whereby we are able to get more intent audience?
So, you know what, just maybe just think and maybe step a little back, like from a marketer's hat. You're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of spends move to digital marketing because you're able to do the measurability, right? CFOs are all very happy if you're putting money on that side of the table. And even marketers have a very easy way to justify those spends. Yeah, that's like, okay, I've spent so much, I've got so much reach, I've got so many clicks. You have a lot of numbers, you can show a lot of numbers, so much traffic, so much leads, so much business. So you can actually map the entire funnel with digital, and that's been, I think, one of the mainstays of how this has moved. Of course, there are different metrics now, even like an out of home, as you mentioned. We do a lot of that, and small towns, tier 1, tier 2, that works a lot. So as I said, for different objectives, we have to use different mediums, right from the traditional to digital. So I think every role has to play, and I would say even there's a lot of measurability. And I think, some of my co-panelists use the word, I think, is actually transparency. Is very important, that comes up. So I think that's part one of the equation. The second thing which I feel, and I think you put that as a question on right now, is that how do you use the new coming formats? And one opportunity that we've leveraged a bit, but I'm sure many of my panelists have done a lot of work too, is about the contextual advertising and the moment advertising that programmatic can sometimes offer you. Which is, all said and done, with so much of money going into Google and Meta, it's becoming a blind spot, right? It's like, click karo, aage jao, aage jao. I mean, it's like that, right? Vis-a-vis contextual advertising on some of the news platforms, right mediums, and a lot of plethora of good mediums, apart from the traditional banner ads. Earlier, you would just see banner ads. Now you can do so much more. So I think that's another opportunity, if used rightly, can get you high engagement and at a good cost. But as I said, the problem of choice is actually complicated there because there is so much, right? And you don't have an algorithm, because if you go to GD and you say sub assets dal do, the algorithm will optimize. You will choose which works best. So you can upload all your assets and all your things on Meta, and then you have something working and they'll decide, which is a bit of a challenge, I think, many times. Of course, the agencies will probably know how to do it better, but even as a marketer, you need to have that control on which asset is working, when is it working, and as you said, right real-time optimization, because only if you get the data back can you optimize back. So I think those are both, I would say, there are a lot of opportunities because in this parallel universe. And I think we got to learn how to kind of take advantage of it better.
And just to second that, I think with more and more ML and AI and third generation programmatic, these contextual ads, banners, etc., especially on the digital side works very well, because it kind of shows this to the right audience at the right place at the right time, in the medium there where he's actually going to act or react, right? So I think that makes it a lot more efficient.
Perfect. I think I'll put two short questions, and then we can probably go in for questions from the audience. Cookieless, no third-party cookies. This has been the buzzword for last few years, and it's soon going to be a reality in India. So Priyanka, some people say that, the inventory is going to lose and it's going to impact programmatic marketing quite a bit. While others say that the inventory may be less, but the quality of inventory would be far superior. So from each of us, starting with you, Priyanka, what's your take? Which side do you feel, and how it's going to impact the programmatic marketing?
Like I shared earlier, I'm a firm believer of constant shift in the way business is happening. Before the whole cookie world came in, there was marketing that was happening. With third-party cookies going in, I still feel that life will be slightly different. The new normal will change. The way we actually will now reach out to our audiences may change. However, in due course of time, and I can't define a timeline as yet because it will depend on how advertisers and publishers actually adapt to it, the new normal will be the new way of advertising. And what will that new way of advertising? I think each one of us has a very different definition of it. Some people are saying that it will become cohort-based. Some people are saying that there'll be a unified ID which will come in. So I just think it's a power shift from one to many and spread out people. So there is no right answer to this at this point in time. So, but the reality is that there will be a new normal, and we will again be sitting out here and talking of that new normal as a year stay. So I don't have a right or a wrong answer to it.
Yeah, Shonali, what's your take? Will the quality of audience be better, or will it impact?
See, I come from the financial services world, right? So consent and privacy is ingrained into our thinking. So anything which actually is good for the customer is good for the business. So as she rightly said, right, I think ecosystems will figure their world out. It will take some time. We hope the time is shorter. But I think over the next couple of months, each of the ecosystems, publisher side, supplier side, advertiser side, category-wise, all of us will figure our world out. As she said, it existed, it continues to exist. The method perhaps will change, but it will evolve.
I guess all of us are for the programmatic on the same page. Do you all agree, Sapna and
Yeah,
Abhishek?
so agree, I think data privacy is a concern, and I think, we're moving in the right direction from that perspective. But, that also gives more and more power to people who have first-party data, right? So, and you can still use them in the programmatic context. So, as, my panelists are mentioning, I'm sure the world will move towards a better and a more efficient way of targeting them. So, and the change that is implemented is for the good for the, from a data perspective.
I just thought I'll add one thing, is like the whole thing on third-party cookies not being there is almost like you're going to do marketing without data. I don't think that's going to happen. Data will still be there. There'll be different ecosystems that will evolve. And I think the key that will become very important is the permissions that you're going to seek. And then how do you actually leverage those permissions into your programs, into your outreach? So it'll become actually more smarter. If you really think of it. But as I said, it'll evolve, but there will be data, first party data, permissions, better transparency. So yeah, we will all evolve.
So two things which I want to leave back. One is that we are all sitting here talking of India. I don't think a lot of us have touched on what Bharat is. Bharat is a completely different animal, and the way marketing happens out there is very, very different. So, so that is something that is to be thought about. And second is the evolution of zero-party data, which right now we are hearing, which is cropping up slowly, where people are actually getting incentivized to leave their data, which is actually just an enhanced version of first-party data. But I have a feeling that when you go down to Bharat, so this zero-party data is going to become far bigger than your first-party data.
And also, there are a lot of platforms that have actually evolved out of cookies. So what I really foresee is the positivity of how programmatic is going to be even better without cookies, without the third-party cookies. I think that's very clearly evident. Let me just end this discussion with what's your wish list. So we can start from you, Sapna, and we can come back. So what's your wish list for programmatic, and how we, as a platform, how platforms should develop themselves?
Wish list. Yeah, I think wish list is like some genie. हम खाली problem बता देते हैं, आप solution बता देना. फिर measure हम ROI का भी वो दे देते हैं. Like you give that also back. Yeah, but that was on the lighter side. I think more. Transparency, more clarity, I think evolving the learning. I mean, I think in this field there's so much new happening all the time. To be honest, a marketer really has to be on their toes to figure this out. And I think being able to take that course faster, to make this simpler, more transparent, more clearer, to help both on the audience targeting front and on the audience measurement front, and the campaign measurement front. So those two things.
Okay, from my side, I think we were just having this pre-panel conversation, right? I think we always had the availability of tools, technologies, and other things to aid us. I think my wish list would be for personal growth also, and as well as for the entire fraternity also, is do invest in talent and the skill set, because the largest challenges that we face is while we invest in tools and technologies, we don't find the right set of talent and skill set to actually leverage all that's available. So that's the point.
Well, these two do form part of my wish list as well. But however, my wish list is to get leads at the cheapest cost and the conversion at the best CAC possible. I think that kills it. I'm here, and my job stays if I'm able to deliver that for my business.
So again, +1. So basically, I had the same wish list where all my leads, convert into disbursement. So, there's no leakage, there's no funnel. I'm not, sending any spam or, showing banners to anybody who's not interested, right? So it's always going to people who have interest in this and who basically convert. And so it doesn't, go out to people that are not interested. And also, it doesn't clog my funnel where, I have to make marketing effort, etc., to see, who will convert, who will not convert, right? So